there was a political promise, I think, made back in the 20s, whatever. They talked about putting a chicken in every pot. And in order to be able to put a chicken in every pot, you have to have money to do that. And what's been going on has been a particular battle that in Congress between not only the Senate, but the House in terms of continuing this particular payroll tax cut. I don't know if people think it makes a big difference, but I think on average they talked about it's like $1,000 a year in someone's pocket, and I think that, I don't know if anybody has $1,000 they could throw away. But of course what's been happening is that politics has been playing a big issue. And I just want to kind of talk about that, Lorie. What do you think is going to happen with this whole bill? Do you think it's going to get passed? Do you think that the president's going to have to compromise more again, or the Congress is going to have to compromise?
Well, I don't think he can compromise, because I think the issues are pretty clear cut that you know, that this is very necessary, and unemployment benefits need to continue, that we can't make this negotiation of cutting them down by 40 weeks, which is a considerable amount of time. You know, they want to reduce it from the 90 to the 49 or something of that nature, 59, you know, weeks, which would put a lot of people in a difficult position, because a lot of people would be out of benefits by February. And, you know, we don't see a change in the economy now, and we don't expect to see it in the next couple of months. So that would basically leave a lot of people stranded with really nowhere to go. So I think, well, I'm hoping that the Republicans will come to the realization that the people of the country should come first, as opposed to the politics of their particular party, and make the concessions that are necessary to make sure that a lot of people don't wind up suffering.
What do you think about it, Bert?
Well, this is another example of how we have this divided, since the 2010 election, this divided Congress, and these ideologues in the Republican Party want to stick it to the Democrats, and particularly to the president. And they're saying, okay, we'll pass this, but they put the poison pills in there. Right. And you got to swallow them. And he said, no, I'm not swallowing these pills. And so the president says, if you put the wrong stuff in there, like the pipeline from Alaska to Canada to Texas, right, he will veto it. So these are important things to watch and keep an eye on, and don't lose sight of it. Keep your eye on the prize. That's a prize too, right there, in terms of what's going on, in terms of the information you get from how the Republicans are deliberately stalling and trying to defer any benefit to lower or middle class people.
Again, when we talk about $1,000, maybe to that top 1%, or maybe to these quote-unquote job creators, that doesn't mean anything. But that might make the difference between somebody being able to make a mortgage payment, or, you know, or even make a car payment or something, or you know, and these things are important. You know, we look at this particular season that we're in, and we see all these people out here spending money. That $1,000 might be a budget for somebody for Christmas. So I asked the question, and I asked people directly, I mean, what money are you spending right now? On my Facebook page, what money are you spending? Is it money that you have, or is it money that you don't have that you're spending? You know, and the problem with Congress is that they don't have a problem spending money they don't have to help out corporations and things, but they don't seem to be interested in doing that to help out individuals.
Yeah, and I think they need to stick to being reasonable, because, I mean, I understand some of the demands of, you know, the comments they're making about making sure that people can't spend their food stamp money at strip clubs, and I mean, okay, we'll give you that. You know, we understand what food stamps and things are for, so you want to, if you want to have certain restrictions that are reasonable, that's fine. But then when you start bringing into the situation of drug testing anyone who's on, you know, getting benefits, and you know, all kinds of things that are just totally unreasonable for a variety of reasons. I mean, one, because you have to recognize that if there are people on drugs, you know, that are unfortunately misusing the funds, that drug addiction, they've already established, is a problem.
It's crazy as Congress been acting. You wonder if they're on drugs. Maybe they should drug test them.
But I mean, if you have on one hand, doctors and psychologists and et cetera saying that alcoholism and drug addiction, these are things that are they're not just behavioral problems, that they are physiological problems, that people have to go through 12-step programs, et cetera. How can you turn around and say that, okay, if we ever drug test you and find out that you are positive, we're just going to take your benefits away? Then what, do they become homeless and you know, drug addicted?
The argument should be, if the corporation is the same as the individual, and you seem to want to put all of these restrictions on individuals, then, you know, common sense would say that you should be able to do the same thing for a corporation, right, Bert?
Yeah, you would think that it's a logical sequence to that conclusion. That if you're in a corporation, you're the same as an individual, get the same benefits, the same.
Right.
It's absurd, but they're getting away with the absurd regularly, and we have to be strong and stand up against it and watch what's going on.
Yeah, and the problem is, again, this is happening in the 11th hour. You know, again,
right.
So we have this back and forth where, you know, you're going to be down to the wire and hope that the president doesn't give in, you know, on the things that he says he's going to stand firm on, because they're not negotiable. You know, and the people of the country should be contacting their senators and you know, representatives, letting them know that they're not going to stand for this, because again, we've talked about it before, the president has but so much ability to fight this situation. He's been going through it for years, and this bipartisan mentality has never really materialized. So we need to make sure that the people of the country provide the support to make sure that this infighting that's going on in our government doesn't continue to the detriment of our people.
When you watch C-SPAN, you would think you were watching a dysfunctional family. When C-SPAN is where you really have most of the congressional committee hearings and things like that. And again, you know, I remember, you know, listening to FDR, and I remember him talking about how the United States was in this thing together. When people had a philosophy that, you know, we're going to fight this battle together. We're going to conquer whatever this problem. There's nothing that Americans can do if we stand together. The same type of mentality people had after 9/11, but it seems to have disappeared when it comes to these two groups. And maybe what they should do is just outlaw the Democrats and Republicans and maybe bring back the Whigs or whoever else. But we need to have a sense of some type of philosophy that people are going to find a way to work together.